For decades, the public has been told that strange sightings in the sky are nothing more than weather balloons, misidentified aircraft, or hoaxes. Yet a growing mountain of evidence, buried in obscure publications, leaked memos, and hushed insider accounts, paints a far more disturbing picture. Our world leaders have been meeting with beings from beyond this earth, and some have paid with their lives to keep the truth hidden. There are whispers of clones and lookalikes, doubles who appear in public when their originals cannot. Some are said to be products of secret programs, others, visitors from beyond masquerading as humans. But the deeper question is what types of extraterrestrials are actually contacting the world's power brokers. According to a patchwork of eyewitness reports and leaked documents, Italy has seen the arrival of reptilian beings, nearly 6 feet tall and covered in scales. Northern Europe has been visited by the Nordics, towering, blonde-haired, blue-eyed figures who radiate calm authority. In Puerto Rico, as far back as the 1960s, encounters with the same Nordics were recorded, a group identified as the Ashler Command, originating in the Aldebaran constellation and now operating from Orion. And in the United States, the reports point to both Nordics and Greys, suggesting America is caught between competing alien factions. Despite differences in appearance, one truth cuts through the noise: these beings are here, and they are engaging humanity at the highest levels. On the surface, the weekly world news reads like tabloid fiction, but beneath the sensational headlines lies a disturbing consistency. One article describes an alien emissary, the same one said to have visited George Bush, Bill Clinton, and Ross Perot, meeting with Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, Senator Bob Dole, and other congressional leaders in a 2-hour closed-door session. Gingrich refused to discuss it, while Dole would only call it one of the most productive meetings with an extraterrestrial we've ever had. The alien, once a supporter of Clinton, allegedly encouraged Gingrich to run for president, seeking a stronger partner on Earth. A Secret Service photograph, never officially released, supposedly shows the alien greeting U.S. lawmakers. If true, this was not simply a meeting but the first step in interstellar diplomacy. Other stories suggest an even darker reality. President John F. Kennedy was preparing to reveal the truth about UFOs. In November 1963, just days before Dallas, Kennedy met with Eisenhower and his brother Robert to discuss a public disclosure. His speech, never delivered, would have begun with the words, "Citizens of this earth, we are not alone." But insiders who feared the consequences of disclosure decided to act, silencing him before he could speak. No president since has dared to finish the speech that might have changed history. The secrecy continued into the 1990s. Lawrence Rockefeller privately pressed President Clinton to release the top-secret UFO files, including those related to Roswell. He asked for assurances that whistleblowers would not be persecuted. Clinton never granted them, and the files remained sealed. A British politician later claimed the US had recovered 4 alien bodies and a starship in 1947 and that President Harry Truman himself had been shown the remains. If true, the cover-up stretches back to the very birth of the modern UFO era. Hints have slipped through the cracks. Ronald Reagan, after a private screening of Spielberg's E.T., reportedly told the director, "There aren't 6 people in this room who know just how true that really is." In a speech before the United Nations in 1987, he mused openly about how an alien threat could unite humanity. General Douglas MacArthur had said the same decades earlier, warning of a cosmic conflict between Earth's nations and sinister forces of some other planetary galaxy. These were not random musings. They were warnings. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the encounters have continued. Reports describe a tall, lanky alien with a bulbous head captured at a UFO landing site in Western Virginia and hustled into a CIA safe house in Washington, D.C. Grainy photographs supposedly show agents covering the creature as it was rushed inside. "This isn't Star Trek," one investigator remarked. "This time we've got pictures that prove the alien is in custody." In Russia, a soldier allegedly shot and killed an alien near Moscow in 1991, prompting scientists to fear a retaliatory strike from its kind. When they do, one warned, mankind will be powerless to defend itself. Taken together, these clippings, statements, and whispers form a chilling mosaic. Aliens are not a myth. They are here, meeting our leaders in secret, shaping policies behind closed doors, and sometimes even being captured or killed. Some world figures know the truth and hint at it, while others are silenced before they can speak. The cover-up is not just about UFOs. It is about who really runs the world. For the few willing to connect the dots, the conclusion is unavoidable. The greatest story never told is playing out in the shadows, and the stakes are nothing less than the future of humanity. In 1988, at El Yunque in Puerto Rico, Joel de Diego Vasquez reported a strange encounter with what he described as a terrestrial being. A drawing was made under the being's guidance, a circle with a triangle inside it, containing the figure of a man. According to the explanation, the circle represented Earth, the triangle with the man represented a ship manned by extraterrestrials, and the entire symbol meant that Earth was destined to have contact with intelligent beings from outer space. Puerto Rico, witnesses claim, has been infiltrated for decades with UFO abductions, extraterrestrial beings, and widespread animal mutilations. Farmers and tourism agencies in particular have been plagued by what they call their greatest nightmare, the Chupacabras, or goat sucker. The name has long been dismissed as ridiculous, which some say is why mainstream scientists avoid investigating it. Yet countless witnesses remain convinced that the Chupacabras is real and extraterrestrial. Reports of its attacks span the island, often miles apart, suggesting there is more than one creature. What is the Chupacabras? To many, it is not imagination but a terrifying predator. Some believe it hides in the depths of El Yunque or Toro Negro forests, emerging only to feed. Others insist it is the result of genetic manipulation, or even a secret government experiment gone wrong, creating a reckless hybrid that mutilates animals while UFOs hover silently overhead. Still others connect it to occult practices, escaped rhesus monkeys from the Cayo Santiago research facility, or even an extraterrestrial base northwest of Puerto Rico. The creature earned its name after being found beside a dead goat whose body bore a double row of punctures and crescent-shaped wounds on its neck. Vital organs, the heart, liver, lips, ears, and eyes, were missing. Over time, the victims multiplied: cows, horses, dogs, chickens, turkeys, ducks, cats, and more. Goats, however, remained its preference. Some Puerto Ricans claim that the Chupacabras is not new at all, that it has haunted the island since the time of the Taino people centuries ago, making it as much a part of the island as the tiny coqui frog. Unlike the frog, however, the Chupacabras has spread beyond Puerto Rico, with sightings in Texas, northern Georgia, and scattered reports throughout the Americas. Descriptions from eyewitnesses are strikingly consistent. The creature has no ears, only auditory holes, and two small nostrils above a thin mouth without lips. Its mouth hides sharp canines that leave distinctive double holes in the necks of its prey. Its body is 4 to 5 feet tall, grayish-black in color, and covered with fine, spike-like bristles that can change color like a chameleon, blending into its surroundings. Along its head and back runs a row of thorn-like spines or small wings that vibrate, creating a loud buzzing and shifting colors from black to red, orange, green, yellow, blue, and violet. Its almond-shaped eyes glow an intense red-orange, with vertical pupils like those of a cat or reptile. When threatened, the creature crouches as if preparing to strike. Witnesses say it lets out loud screams, barks in an unknown language, and emits a foul, overwhelming odor. Some accounts describe it flying or gliding short distances, propelled by the vibration of its back spines or wings. Reports of mutilations escalated dramatically after the drought of 1994 and the hurricanes of 1995, when witnesses say the creature's habits changed. State and federal officials, locals claim, no more than they admit. Publicly, they dismiss or misdirect the phenomenon, but with the sheer number of sightings across Puerto Rico's towns and cities, it is harder and harder to deny. Eyewitnesses describe chilling encounters. One man saw a dark figure, 4 to 5 feet tall, with a round head, red eyes, a fish-like face, and long canine teeth. It stood on strong hind legs with 3-fingered claws, its back glowing fluorescent green, blue, and violet. Another family reported seeing the creature walking through the street in broad daylight before it fled at incredible speed. A police officer claimed he shot the creature at close range when it attacked his dog, only to see it bounce against a wall and escape unharmed. Others describe it buzzing, flying, or crouching with terrifying speed, disappearing into the night after draining livestock of blood and organs. Theories abound. Some insist it is extraterrestrial, perhaps a scout or even a pet of the Greys. Others say it is a genetic experiment gone rogue. Whatever its origin, the Chupacabras has become Puerto Rico's most enduring legend, a living nightmare that continues to resurface wherever mutilated animals are found. This report, published in Evidencia OVNI, Spanish UFO magazine number 8, by Jorge Martin and Marian Quiñones on October 7, 1995, insisted that the Chupacabras was not the only strange entity roaming Puerto Rico. Other beings, often appearing in connection with UFO sightings, had also been reported. Skeptics argue that advanced genetic manipulation is beyond Puerto Rico's capabilities. But witnesses and researchers counter with a blunt claim: genetic manipulation has existed for a long time, and this country does have access to advanced technology, through extraterrestrial intervention. One key witness, Mrs. Rosa Jimenez of Naranjito, Puerto Rico, stated that since late 1994 she had repeatedly seen extraterrestrial beings on her property. She wasn't alone. Neighbors reported them too. Among the entities described were a tall humanoid, a small childlike figure, and a bizarre creature with a long, bird-like beak. Drawings were made to document the sightings. This raises the unsettling question: are the Chupacabras truly extraterrestrial beings, or are they products of genetic manipulation? The answer may lie somewhere in between. The very word extraterrestrial breaks down to extraterrestrial, something not originally of this Earth's environment, but introduced into it. Combine that with the centuries-old practices of gene manipulation by advanced beings, cloning, external reproduction, and hybrid experiments, and the line between alien visitor and engineered creature begins to blur. Supporting this view are experiments conducted by Dr. Xian Kankan, a Chinese scientist later naturalized in Russia. Through his studies of cybernetics, quantum mechanics, and radio techniques, Kankan speculated that genetic, biological, and even psychic information could be transmitted via ultra-high-frequency biolinks. Using a special electronic apparatus, he experimented with transferring the bioelectromagnetic fields of one organism into another. His results were disturbing. Cucumbers influenced by the genetic field of melons, rabbits carrying monstrous offspring after exposure to the field of a goat, and corn altered by the radiation of wheat. The conclusion was inescapable: gene manipulation, once thought to be the realm of science fiction, was achievable by electronic transmission. By the mid-1990s, mutilated animals across Puerto Rico bore the hallmarks of something far beyond normal predators. Federal and state agencies investigated reluctantly, often dismissing the phenomenon with weak explanations: stray dogs, monkeys, or natural causes. Farmers, however, pointed to the surgical precision of the wounds, small puncture holes, circular gaps, and organs missing without any signs of tearing or biting. Whatever was killing their livestock, it was not natural. Many locals are convinced the government knows more than it admits. Witnesses claim that in 1995, at least 2 chupacabras were captured, one trapped in a steel cage in Hato, San Lorenzo, and another seized in El Yunque by U.S. Forest Service officials. Both creatures were quickly taken into custody, transported in secure containers, and removed from the island. El Yunque itself, Puerto Rico's Great Rainforest, has long been a hotspot for UFO activity. Residents have testified for decades that strange craft enter and exit the forest, sometimes accompanied by entities of varying shapes and sizes. Some researchers suggest that El Yunque lies at the edge of the Bermuda Triangle, making it a natural hub for unexplained phenomena. Others argue it is a geomagnetic center or even a permanent UFO base. One well-documented 1988 incident describes witnesses hearing a loud, piercing whistle. Rushing to the source, they saw a massive, disc-shaped craft roughly 75 meters in diameter crash into a mountain, exploding with tremendous force. Helicopters and military personnel swarmed the site by morning, sealing it off from the public. A local television crew filmed the aftermath, but when the footage was scheduled to air, the tape mysteriously vanished. Months later, vegetation in the crash zone failed to grow back. Official denials followed, labeling the event false or exaggerated. Yet curiously, the very agency that issued the denials, Puerto Rico's Civil Defense, had previously acknowledged UFO activity and even circulated internal guidelines on how to investigate it. The deeper one looks, the clearer the pattern becomes: sightings, mutilations, official denials, and evidence quietly disappearing. The Chupacabras, whether alien or genetically engineered, is just one piece of a larger puzzle, a hidden presence on the island of Puerto Rico that has been unfolding for centuries. In 1983, a 24-year-old woman named Marie Davis of Copley Woods, Indianapolis, experienced a disturbing series of events. First, her household electrical systems began malfunctioning in unusual ways. Soon after, a large, perfectly circular area appeared in her backyard, the vegetation pressed down as though by an unseen force. This was not an isolated case. Crop circles, mysterious formations pressed into fields, had been reported for decades, their shapes evolving from simple circles to elaborate geometrical patterns and pictographs. In every case, the stems of the crops were bent, not cut, as if subjected to a sudden burst of energy. Farmers dismissed them as vandalism, yet many formations were mathematically perfect, spanning hundreds of feet, and appearing in isolated locations only visible from the air. The first widely recorded crop circle sighting occurred in 1976 at Headhorn Worthy, Hampshire, England. By the early 1980s, researchers took the phenomenon seriously, with more than 900 occurrences documented in Britain alone. Soon, circles appeared worldwide, in Russia, Japan, New Zealand, the United States, and beyond. Witnesses often reported a strange mist or low cloud covering the fields before the circles appeared, accompanied by humming or crackling noises in the night. By dawn, the formations were simply there. These burns on the ground defy easy explanation. Some attribute them to hoaxes, but others point to their mathematical precision, their sudden appearance, and their global consistency as proof of an intelligence at work. Theories link them to extraterrestrials, Earth energies, or even attempts at communication. So widespread has the phenomenon become that even governments have quietly acknowledged it. In 1995, the magazine Unsolved UFO Sightings reported that an island nation had issued official postage stamps under the title Mysteries of the Universe, featuring crop circles alongside UFOs, the Bermuda Triangle, crystal skulls, and the Loch Ness Monster. The recognition was subtle, but it marked a rare moment of official acknowledgement of unexplained mysteries. Some researchers draw a chilling parallel between modern crop circles and the massive geoglyphs of Nazca, Peru. Thousands of years old, these enormous figures of animals, lines, and runways are only visible from the sky. Were they ancient landing strips? Evidence of contact with the same extraterrestrial forces now marking our fields? Similar giant works, such as the Atacama Giant in Chile, suggest that this phenomenon is not new, but part of a long, hidden history of interaction. The crop circle mystery also connects to another sinister trend: animal mutilations. In 1987, Deputy Sheriff Donald Bryan of Pueblo, Colorado, investigated the unexplained death of a steer. Its body was warm to the touch, suggesting it had died only hours earlier, but the mutilations were precise, bloodless, and surgical. Eyes, ears, tongues, and reproductive organs had been removed with uncanny accuracy. The rectum was cored out in a perfect circle. Similar cases across the U.S. describe the same patterns: smooth, bloodless incisions with no footprints or tracks nearby, not even from the animal itself. Unmarked helicopters and strange lights often appeared near mutilation sites. Farmers were left terrified, not only by the economic loss of livestock but by the unsettling sense of an unknown intelligence at work. Were the same forces behind the crop circles also responsible for harvesting animals? The implications grow darker when extended to humans. Abduction reports describe not only examinations but mutilations, blood drained, organs removed, bodies left discarded. Some witnesses claim to have seen vats of biological material aboard extraterrestrial craft, fluids containing both human and animal remains. Others describe greys feeding by immersing themselves in nutrient-rich solutions, absorbing sustenance through their skin. Krista Tilton, an abductee, reported being taken to an underground facility in Oklahoma in 1987. There, she claimed, she saw containers of fluid, crafts, and small gray beings. She said her ova were harvested, later used in hybridization programs, and that she bore children she was not allowed to keep, except one daughter, said to be a clone of herself as a child. Such accounts recall the sacrifices to the gods in ancient cultures. In Sumer, Babylon, Egypt, and even the Old Testament, humans were commanded to offer their children. Were these gods truly divine, or extraterrestrial beings demanding tribute? The chilling suggestion is that rituals of blood and sacrifice, even the symbolism of the Eucharist, may have roots in alien appetites. Some researchers believe that certain entities feed not just on flesh or blood but on the very surge of adrenaline released at death, a substance most potent in children. This view ties modern abduction and mutilation phenomena to a much older narrative: humanity as livestock in a cosmic farm, cultivated, monitored, and occasionally harvested. Ancient landing strips, crop circles, cattle mutilations, and human abductions all begin to look like fragments of the same story, one in which Earth is not the sole dominion of man, but part of a larger, hidden order overseen by powers we barely comprehend. Close encounters of the third kind occur when humans directly observe extraterrestrials. One of the most credible cases took place on April 24, 1964, in Socorro, New Mexico. At around 5:45 p.m., police officer Lonnie Zamora witnessed two figures in white coveralls standing beside a craft in a desert gully. As he approached, the object lifted into the air until it hovered level with his police car. Zamora described the craft as oval-shaped, about 12 to 15 feet long, with a metallic, whitish surface resembling aluminum. Most striking was the insignia, a red, inverted crescent with a vertical arrow inside, and a horizontal line beneath. The symbol was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Years later, in February 1984, a UFO was reported to have crashed in El Yunque, Puerto Rico. Witnesses saw the object go down in the mountains, but by the next day, the search was abruptly halted under military orders, and the area remained sealed off. Only a handful of journalists, including Jorge Rivera Nieves of WCAC TV and reporters from the newspaper El Interrogador, pursued the story further. Another case emerged on May 7, 1989, in the Kalahari Desert, Botswana. South African Air Force pilots were reportedly ordered to fire a Thor II laser cannon at an unidentified craft. The beam, composed of high-energy microwave radiation, struck the target, forcing it to crash into the semi-soft desert sands. Unlike many crashes, this disk remained largely intact. The silver craft bore markings similar to those seen in Socorro. It was transported to Valhalla Air Force Base in Pretoria. When investigators pried open a jammed hatch with hydraulic gear, 2 extraterrestrial beings were discovered inside. One was injured, the other unharmed. Both were taken to a medical facility, where attempts to extract blood samples met violent resistance. Several officers sustained deep wounds from the creature's claws. Ultimately, the beings were sedated and transferred to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. They were preserved under cryogenic conditions, their blood drained and later reintroduced with liquid nitrogen treatments to keep them alive in a suspended state. Reports suggest these beings resembled those recovered from the infamous 1947 Roswell crash near Corona, New Mexico. As with Roswell, official explanations labeled the wreckage as nothing more than a weather balloon. Yet deathbed confessions, eyewitness testimony, and surviving documents point to a far more disturbing reality. Not only were the bodies real, but the technology was quickly seized and hidden. Close encounters of the fourth kind, abductions, remain even more controversial. In Puerto Rico, radio announcer Luis Orlando Rodriguez, better known as Orlando Rimax, claimed repeated contact beginning in 1972. Telepathically summoned to the mountains between Adjuntas and Utuado, he encountered dazzling craft, voices calling his name, and beings who told him he was chosen. They instructed him to study the esoteric knowledge of the Mayans, where the key to humanity's future supposedly lies. Other contactees described similar visions, journeys, and revelations, sometimes presented as Marian apparitions, other times as direct extraterrestrial encounters. Many report being transported through tunnels of color and sound, emerging in other dimensions, and told they carried responsibilities to spread the truth about alien presence on Earth. From Zamora's desert sighting to South Africa's military shoot-down, from Roswell's enduring mystery to modern abduction claims, one pattern emerges. Direct encounters with extraterrestrials are real, recurring, and consistently suppressed. The symbols, the beings, the crashes, and the testimonies weave a story that governments deny, but witnesses continue to risk everything to tell. The beings who contacted Carlos Ochoa were said to be the same type that George Adamski described in the 1950s. According to Adamski, they had warned him that the great nations of Earth were misusing atomic energy, ignoring its dangers, and risking planetary catastrophe. They spoke of vast ships that would one day carry people away from Earth, followed by upheaval that would change the world forever. Illustrations drawn by Ochoa, based on his encounters, depict messages he claimed to receive from these entities. One reads, "You cannot say no. We are warning you." In September 1991, an anonymous engineer from Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, had a close encounter in El Yunque with the same beings Ochoa described. As a child, he had been fascinated by UFOs, and later, while visiting Ochoa at his sister's home near the rainforest, he decided to follow him into the woods. Ochoa disappeared into the wilderness, leaving the engineer alone. While waiting for him, he encountered towering beings nearly 7 feet tall. They had long, almost white blonde hair that reached their shoulders. Their skin was pale, almost albino, and their silver suits resembled the gear worn by divers. As they approached, fear locked him in place. His body tingled, as if electrified, and only when one of the figures raised its hand was he able to break free and run back to the house. An hour later, Ochoa returned, but the engineer never followed him again. He later admitted this was the first and last time he had seen extraterrestrials directly. Reports of similar beings stretch back decades. In the 1950s and 60s, Howard and Connie Menger of High Bridge, New Jersey, described human-like visitors disembarking from crafts near their farm. They claimed the beings could shift form, glow, or vanish before their eyes. On one Halloween night, the Mengers even photographed them inside their home. Witnesses in Puerto Rico added further descriptions. Some spoke of tall, white-skinned entities with bald heads, delicate features, and luminous auras. Others described beings with piercing blue or green eyes, dressed in long white tunics. In 1976, Luis M. Colon Osorio encountered them near the observation tower atop El Yunque's Britain Mountain. Another witness, Carmelina Rodriguez de Velez, claimed she was telepathically instructed to leave her home in Villa Carolina and move to Mocha, where she was told to construct a pyramid. She described her contacts as tall, slender men with long blonde hair, blue eyes, and fitted one-piece suits. On their chests they bore golden insignia shaped like a W entwined with another symbol resembling an A. Rodriguez later claimed she was taken aboard one of their ships, where she saw a vast computer system in constant motion. On another occasion, she was led into a silver room, given a paper robe, and asked to lie on a small bed. Two of the beings resembled the Nordics she had seen before, but the third was different, a smaller, bald figure with a pear-shaped head, elongated dark eyes, and only 3 long fingers on each hand. Despite its unusual appearance, she said it was very pretty and felt no fear in its presence. Eventually, the beings identified themselves as part of the Ashler Command, said to originate from the Aldebaran system. Their leader, Ashler Sharon, revealed that their mission was to guide Earth, study its minerals, and prepare humanity for great changes. Some accounts even suggest these were the same beings witnessed during the famous 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO flyovers, and that their technology had influenced Nazi Germany during World War II. Researchers describe them as Nordic-type aliens, pale, tall, human-like, with blonde hair and striking eyes. Yet they differ in key ways. Their physiology contains less water, their skin is rubbery and faintly luminous, and their bodies are difficult to replicate through genetic means. While their sincerity is debated, one detail remains consistent. Witnesses insist they came not as conquerors, but as messengers. Whether warning against nuclear destruction, guiding individuals to build structures aligned with cosmic energy, or simply revealing themselves in fleeting encounters, the Ashler Command continues to appear in testimonies stretching from Adamski's time to modern Puerto Rico. Hollywood has long served as a tool of soft disclosure. Movies are not just entertainment, they are designed to spoon-feed the public fragments of truth, preparing you to accept the reality that life exists beyond this planet. For decades, the evidence has been placed in front of your eyes under the guise of science fiction. From Predator to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, from The Thing to Independence Day, these films, along with hundreds of others, plus more than 100 video games, echo patterns of real extraterrestrial encounters. The creatures you see on screen are not merely products of imagination. Many are modeled after beings that eyewitnesses have actually described. So when you laugh off these stories as fantasy, ask yourself, why does the same imagery appear again and again, across cultures, decades, and mediums? The establishment is not hiding the truth, it is feeding it to you in distorted form, mixing fact with fiction until you no longer know which is which. Some films are allegory, some are exaggeration, and some are nearly direct retellings of actual events. The Predator, for instance, is said to be based on reports of insectoid beings from the Andromeda Galaxy, towering, armored entities with mantis-like features. You see it as a monster movie. Insiders see it as disclosure disguised as entertainment. The same strategy applies to tabloid stories. Sensational headlines in weekly world news, The Sun, and other outlets train the public to laugh, to dismiss, to scoff at the very idea of alien contact. Yet woven between the absurd are details that match serious eyewitness accounts. Fact hidden in fiction. Consider 2 examples. In July 1996, The People, London, published rock star Dave Davis's testimony. The Kinks founder claimed extraterrestrials contacted him during a US tour in 1982. They showed him their craft, revealed they carried karmic records of every human, and continue guiding him to this day. Davis warned that humanity should prepare for official alien contact by the year 2000. In October 1996, Weekly World News reported the abduction of 3 children from Concordia, Argentina. Witnesses saw a saucer beam them aboard. 3 days later, the children were returned unharmed, though with strange needle marks on their faces. The children described long-haired, white-skinned beings who gave them candy and showed them the planets through the ship's windows. These cases may be ridiculed, but when compared against government files, military reports, and declassified encounters, the patterns are undeniable. Even mainstream sources, Time, Newsweek, Omni, The New York Times, have gradually begun acknowledging the possibility of life beyond Earth. The media's role is not to reveal the whole truth. It is to condition you. To blur the line between fantasy and fact. To present the truth so openly that you dismiss it as fiction. Extraterrestrials walk among us. They laugh, work, and speak as we do. Their presence has been documented for centuries, by eyewitnesses, by abductees, and by whistleblowers. The only question left is not whether they exist, but why those in power continue to reveal them only through distortion, spectacle, and subliminal disclosure.